we're going to go get started. First of all, welcome to NEOISF. Looks like we got a couple new faces in the room. That's awesome. We've got a couple things going on for our agenda. We're going to try a couple new things today. First, we're going to have Jamie Murdoch providing a talk on ransomware overview and trends from Binary Defense Systems. Then we're going to take a small break. We'll have a tool time with Charles, Mike, and myself. 3 different short tool talks. And we'll wrap it up with Jimmy Bird's talk on security automation and your security automation and your continuous integration pipeline. Woo! Easy to say. So you guys are aware of what NEOISF is all about. We are here to learn, to share, discuss, network, and explore. We've got a couple things that are really important, and that is member participation. If you guys have got topics you want to hear speaking about, or you want to ask a question, all of our speakers have been told that they need to allow interjection throughout the entire time. So we need active participation. Discussion is open and encouraged, and that we're vendor neutral. If you guys are interested in coming on down, you heard it from word of mouth, you didn't get through our mailing list, you can go ahead and visit our website at neoisf.org, and then go ahead and fill out the online form for membership, and from there you go ahead and get emails when I can send them out on the reg. We did send a survey out recently, a couple weeks ago. We were asking for our members' participation and kind of some information about individual wants and needs for the group. And I want to go and share some of those details. The top one there, you may not be able to see it all too well, but it's how long have you been attending NEOISF? And you can see that there's a pretty good distribution, all the way from 1 year to I've been here for as long as we've been around, for 11 years. How many meetings do you attend per year? Unfortunately, we see a vast majority of people who've responded to this don't attend very often. The next, number 4 over there on the left-hand side, what day of the week would you like the meeting to be attended on? And that's on Wednesdays and Thursdays, so it's pretty much equal. So we're going to probably leave it just where it's at. We have the same very strong response that it should be done in the afternoon, same scheduling in the 3rd week of the month. How many years experience? Do you have an information security, GRC, yada yada, whatever your support is? And most people have got several years of experience, with the vast majority being 15 to 20 years. So we've got a lot of experience on our membership who's participating, a lot of great ideas and a lot of information we want to be able to share. So make sure that you pick each other's brains. And then what topics would you like to see? And we had a pretty strong response there from red and blue. That's the 2 big spikes at the top. But we've got a good distribution throughout the entire swath. And what that really tells me is that any talk is welcome. If you guys want to give a talk, you've got a concept or something, go ahead and bring it forward. With that, we want to give a couple thank yous. First of all, I want to give a thank you to OE Connection. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here available to keep the place open. Of course, OE Connection for giving us space. We actually have Dave Kennedy here, who's sponsored through TrustedSec for our food. And of course our speakers. So if you wouldn't mind giving them all a big round of applause. We're also doing something kind of new this month, and that is we are actually, part of our responses, we had some people who couldn't make it. One of the key reasons they couldn't make it to our meetings was distance. And so this month we were actually streaming on YouTube our meetings. If you have any particular point as a speaker that you'd like to have it sanitized or censored for a portion of time, we can absolutely do that. But for those people who are online and aren't able to attend, for whatever family reasons or business reasons, we encourage you to visit us online on YouTube. And without that, I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Jamie, who's going to go ahead and give us our first talk.
Is it on? Say something. Cool. No, leave them both. Well, okay. Doesn't matter. Are you gonna put that one up there then?
I feel like I should be a motivational speaker with one of these things. I'm going to tell you how to invest stuff. Sip your money. There we go. All right. First of all, thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it, as does the rest of the speakers, I'm sure. So we're going to go over some ransomware, but first, World Series bound. So a little bit about myself. My name is Jamie Murdoch. I am the Chief Information Security Officer at Binary Defense Systems. My career has always been focusing on the blue team side. I've never been a hacker. I tried it, I sucked at it, so I figured I'm going to go the opposite direction and try to keep people from doing that. I'm a gamer. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to do outside of being with my kids. I've been a nerd since I was like 2, when I first learned to talk. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's me, at KOVTER. So what are we going to talk about tonight? I want this to be like a very open discussion. I do have an agenda. I'm going to go over some things. But I like to ask a lot of questions during my presentations of the audience, just to kind of get some, to get some things going. So we're going to talk about trends we're seeing in ransomware. And when I say we, this is at Binary Defense. This is what we're actually seeing from the networks that we monitor and from the threat intelligence that we collect. We're going to look at the most common types of ransomware as of right now. And by right now, I mean last night, so that may have changed over the past 24 hours. We're going to look at what we see on the horizon. Based on the threat intelligence we've been gathering and what our analysts have seen, where do we see it going next? We're going to talk about some detection methods, and we're also going to go over some best practices to help protect against said ransomware. So let's talk about some trends. Since ransomware was first really introduced and started being tracked, there's been a 3,000% increase in ransomware. And that's a big number. So why do you guys think that is? Why do you think that ransomware has blown up 3,000%? Yes, sir?
Money.
Money. What else? Money's actually the top one. What else? Yes, sir?
There's no way to really defend against it?
It's difficult. So the response was there's no way to even defend against it. You can, but it is difficult. Yes, sir?
Oh, finish your thought.
Oh, I thought you were asking a question. I already had a response. Okay.
I've got another
Yeah.
reason.
Can I ask how you calculate that though? Because if you start from an essence 0 or 1, now you've grown to a ton. How do you get
That's actually, I should probably put my source in there. I can't remember where I got that number, but it was from a couple of different studies, and they both had the same number in it.
It's actually progressional too. It's actually pretty legit. So if you look at hour increases year after year, there's demographics of that. So it started off with like the fake antivirus stuff, right? And then it started getting more into ransomware. So it has been a major movement. It has been about 3,000%, which has been pretty much year after year, right, too. And then actually, it's actually getting so flooded that they're moving to OS X because there's so much shit out there on the Windows side that they can't even keep up with all the,
Yep.
I feel like horseshit.
Yes, sir.
Digital currency.
Digital currency. Thank you.
That's the reason why it's been so successful. Absolutely right.
Yep. So if you look at what cybercrime has been doing a lot of, if you look back at the Nigerian print scam, everything else like that, it was trying to get paid. No matter what cybercriminals are doing, at the end of the day, they want money. So it was, well, I'm going to get this person's credit card number, or I'm going to get their bank account number, or I'm going to get their information and then be able to use that to perpetrate identity fraud or identity theft. Now with cryptocurrency, it's easy. They'll give you instructions on if you don't know how to use Bitcoin or something like that, don't worry about it. They've got you covered. They're going to give you great instructions on how to use it. Better instructions than you'll get from most software that's out there anyway. The biggest targets right now that we're seeing is healthcare and banking, in addition to POS systems. They're a very large target right now.
Just out of curiosity, because I don't know much about Bitcoin except that that's what they usually take their payments form of. But what is it actually used for?
The Bitcoin?
Yeah.
You can use it for anything. It's just like, imagine just having your, almost like online banking. You can buy whatever you want in Bitcoin, you can actually exchange it for currency.
Like a pizza?
Yes, you can, with Bitcoin.
Very, very expensive pizza.
There's actually a lot of sites now that support buying products with Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Amazon supports Bitcoin. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Just another currency or other government.
So, one of the reasons that healthcare is being targeted so much is medical records are actually worth more than credit cards or your social security number. The information that's in a healthcare record can range from, hey, I'm 5'8", 165 pounds, to these are the exact medications I'm taking. This is the kind of devices I might have. These are the ailments that I suffer from and things like that. There's a lot of juicy data that's actually in a medical record.
So if you're seeing that, that's kind of exfiltration of data, not so much ransomware. Are you seeing more of the ransomware actually exfiltrating that data out as well?
Good one. We're actually going to talk about that in a little bit.
And I guess one other question is, you're breaking down these categories. You said this is from your statistics. Does your customer base that you're pulling this threat intel from, like, I guess how widespread it is, where you see more of this because you naturally have more customers who are spending money on you guys to have this information?
So it's twofold. So yes, it's from customer base, but a lot of it is from our own research. We have a dedicated threat intelligence department, and that's all they do. They're literally in the basement of our building, squirreled away, and they do nothing but ClearNet, DarkNet, human intelligence, you name it. They're down there getting into the weeds. So they're actually getting a lot of this information straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Where am I? Companies are actually buying Bitcoin as part of their incident response plan. I can't make that up. It's true. They see it as, it's. Are there any high-level CEOs of any companies in here other than Kennedy? All right, cool. So they see things in the news. They're like, oh shit, that could happen to us. That's awful. What are we going to do about it? Hey, let's buy some Bitcoin just in case it happens to us so we can go ahead and get everything back that we need and we're good to go. Which is the wrong thing to do. However, from a risk perspective, if you look at it from a risk, a lot of companies are looking at it from, how do I mitigate this risk? If I get hit with it right now, what am I going to do? The only thing we can really do is be prepared, have Bitcoin, and be ready to send it out. Instead of, putting that same dollars and that same capital into improving your security program or something like that, but that's not what they want to do right now. Ransomware as a service, just like anything else that starts out with cybercrime, it's all about money. And the better you are at providing your service, the more money you're going to get. So ransomware as a service is really taking off. We're going to talk about that a little bit more also. And it's very easy to allow anyone to participate in their own campaigns. So I can say, hey, I'm not that good at hacking into stuff. I'm not that good at trying to steal data or anything like that, but I want to launch a ransomware campaign because I want to get paid. So I go to some various places and I say, hey, I want to do this. And the people who run it say, cool, what do you want it to do? Here's basically an empty shell, and you do with it what you want, and we get X percentage. Or we'll just set it all up for you, and we'll run it, and we get a higher percentage.
Yeah, are you tracking the efficiency? So this goes back to the previous. Are you tracking the efficiency of when people pay it, how often they get it back? Because I know initially that was fairly high. I've heard several customer stories now that has actually reduced. So people are having to pay multiple times and they're still not getting it back.
Right. We're actually going to talk about a specific case of ransomware that's notorious for that. We are not tracking that because whenever ransomware pops at a customer, we're not involved in, the hey, are you going to pay or are you not going to pay? We let them know what we're seeing and try to help them with an instant response if they need it. But after that, it's kind of on their own, and they don't really want to talk about what they do after that. Which brings me up to another good point. After ransomware is patching itself, it's getting better and better. Just like most malware or anything else like that, that's quantity malware or anything you can get. The service of ransomware is fantastic. They can, hey, we've been taken care of, or they were able to crack us, and now they can do their own encryption. Hey, let's fix that, and then we can help support our customers who are launching these ransomware campaigns to be able to do that more efficiently.
Is there any kind of ransomware awareness training out there for the general public or anything like that to make people more aware, other than just us in IT circles and things of that nature? Because I think that would be really beneficial.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I can talk about that one a little bit. So the training is the hardest aspect period for users. No one has figured out how to reach the users from not clicking things. The problem is it takes one user, and the way that the ransomware spreads is it enumerates the file shares that you have already mapped, and there's new ones out there actually sweeping the entire infrastructure looking for shares that you can connect to, and from there encrypting as well. So the problem is it just takes one user to cause an entire outage in your entire organization if you have really horrible permissions on your file shares. So that ratio sucks, because even if you use something like FishBee or KnowBe4 or those ones that actually do end user training and awareness, they do these simulated phishes and everything, and your percentages may go down. You may go from 90% to 30%, but the problem is you still got 30% of your users clicking on stupid stuff that, it's not stupid stuff, it's just how we're used to doing as human beings. So, the 30% is still going to cause a major impact for your organization. So, no, unfortunately, I haven't seen anything that effectively reduces, a significant amount of ransomware. More technical controls that do. Like, for example, ransomware is still very much predominantly executable-based, PE file-based. So, getting more to like application whitelisting makes a big amount of sense, because you can at least structure and say, okay, well, hey, this binary wasn't code signed, we're not going to allow it, and then nip it in the bud, and it never executes in the first place. But Ryan actually just talking, the latest version of LOCKY uses PowerShell, so it's not 100%, but it's a little bit better than before. It sucks. That's why it's so hard to stop. No one's stopping right now, because we have bad practices in general in IT and security that allow that to happen.
So is it more like these guys are more like companies, or
All the above.
have the order too?
All the above.
Yeah.
All the above. Yeah, home users are just as susceptible to this. Paying the ransom. The ransom's a lot less because they encrypt a lot lower, record sets. But ransom usually is what, $200, $300, I think, for home users, and then $50,000, $100,000 for companies, depending on the size of it. So.
But even if you feel a ransom, there's no guarantee you're going to keep your information back.
No, but I can answer that a little bit. So we do IR on the trust and sec side, and I would say, so we get brought into customers, and so let me preface this with our first recommendation is you should really have good backups, right? That's our first recommendation. Our second recommendation is you should really have good backups, right? Our third recommendation is if you absolutely have to pay, we can help facilitate that. You need us to help, because people don't know how to pay in Bitcoin in a lot of cases. Like companies are structured, we already have Bitcoin accounts and everything else. So we'll help facilitate that, and the payment process of that, we actually still see a very high percentage where they release it. Probably, I'd say 95 to 98% where they actually do give the encryption keys to actually go and decrypt it. So still very high. That's probably 100 subsets or so. Yeah, we had a bank. No bullshit. We had a bank that said, hey, what do we need to do to build in ransomware mitigations into our incident response program? I'm like, okay, cool, let's talk about BCP and DR. Like, no. How do we pay Bitcoins in advance so that we can, pay the ransom when we get hit by it? I'm like, but I want to give up in security.
Yeah, I think these privilege goes a long way too. Like,
Absolutely.
It's very obvious from like a file server perspective, but even more granular. Some of the ransomware strains that I've seen on the endpoint will encrypt files, but if the user's not an admin, it can't delete shadow copies. So you can just like revert them, right? And it's like a piece of cake if they're not admin. If they're admin, a lot of them will just like.
That goes to everything, persistence hooks too. I mean, like, lateral movement, persistence hooks, being able to extract the SAM database and move to different systems. I mean, these privilege goes an extremely long way, not just for ransomware, but just in security in general. So, totally agree.
And one of the things, so what I was going to bring up after this, I'm on the bullet point for it though, is, so I think it was one of your questions had to do with, how many companies are actually getting their files back, and there was some other tracking of numbers. What makes it really difficult is a lot of companies don't even report that they've been hit by ransomware. They don't have to, unless there's, let me rephrase that, depending on regulatory or contractual compliance, they do. However, if it doesn't affect something that's in scope and or they don't have those, a lot of times they won't report it. I talked to a few different folks in the FBI cybercrimes area about that, and the one guy I would talk to a lot, his biggest complaint is we're not getting notified enough. You know, if it happens, we're not getting called. We're not getting to know, different Bitcoin wallets. We're not getting to see a lot of different things because the companies are just like, you know what? We're gonna pay it. It's all good, bro. We're just gonna let it be. So obviously, those of us who do the research or the trending or anything like that, it makes it difficult if companies aren't actually coming forward saying, hey, I got hit with this. What should I do? So right now, the most common ones we're seeing is ZEPTO, another LOCKY, CERBER 1, 2, and 3. Specifically 3 we're seeing a lot more right now. .LOCKY and KOVTER. So we'll go over just a little bit of these. Again, I'm not going into any of the real technical stuff. This is just kind of from a high level what we're seeing. ZEPTO, right now it's targeting Windows OS. If it's removed, if it's removed, the files are still inaccessible, and the files were renamed with the .ZEPTO extension. So a lot of times these are kind of easy, sometimes, to identify what it is based on the extension, because it'll change it to something else. So for more commodity type ransomware, you can pretty much trust what the extension is. However, for more your targeted ransomwares, it may say throw it up to the .ZEPTO extension, but it's not ZEPTO. CERBER. CERBER's kind of aggressive. You have 1 week to pay it if you want the encryption key. And if you don't pay it, it doubles. And it creates a few different files, with different my files, and that's dropped in every folder containing the encrypted files. It's very similar to CryptoWall and TeslaCrypt in the way it's sent out, the way it's designed. The support for CERBER is outstanding, actually. Just like I said before, a lot of malware, commodity malware. If you want to purchase it and have it used, the support is outstanding. CERBER support is excellent. So if you were a bad guy and you wanted to do your own ransomware campaign, these guys will definitely take care of you. However, you will go to jail. .LOCKY. It is a variant of TeslaCrypt. It does change file extensions to a random string. This one will also delete your volume shadow copies as well as your system restore points. It's already been brought up though. Least privilege will help mitigate that. This is one of my favorites. But it does what's very common as far as like the police ransomware or the police scam. So when you get caught with it, it'll basically tell you, hey, you've gone somewhere that you shouldn't have. And law enforcement has been notified. And you have seen illegal content, now you have to pay. Otherwise, you're going to get reported, or it's a fine, or what have you. So this one is kind of hard to get people to actually come forward and say, hey, I got hit with this. Because in the back of their minds, they're like, okay, well, research says, oh, this is KOVTER. So, probably it's just trying to scare me. But you know what? I may have gone somewhere I shouldn't have anyway, so I'm just gonna pay it. So some things that we're kind of seeing on the horizon as far as, and when I say horizon, I'm saying like we're already starting to see it. We anticipate seeing more of it. So ransomware buyers actually customizing the payload. That's actually what you can do with add-on. Again, it's a service, it's a business. Long gone are the days where somebody trades ransomware just to get paid on their own. Why do that when they can just run everything and make money off of everyone else that's launching their ransomware for you? So they make it more customizable. Hey, what kind of thing do you want to do? What do you want it to do? What do you want your display message to be? Do you want to customize it? Do you want to go for a specific target? Okay, cool. Let's get some information on it and let's target everything directly toward that. Ransomware encrypting entire disks, not just files. Like Mamba, and HTTP crypt. So obviously that's a big problem. You know, getting some files that are encrypted, that sucks. Getting a whole disk that's encrypted, that's going to ruin your day. LOCKY, no CNC interaction needed. That's scary. I mean, you get a box that's popped, and even if you see it right now, you pull the cable. If that has been downloaded and executed, it'll still go through its encryption process. Targeted ransomware, kind of went over that a little bit before with the customization. However, on this one also, the reason I put that point in there is it's not just a specific company, but if they've done their due diligence on your company and they've done their recon, they'll target specific assets in your organization. More modular ransomware, again, what kind of components do you want to add to this? When you were talking before, you asked about data exfiltration and when I was talking about records and everything. That's what this is going to. So when I said we're going to come back to that, so it's not only just having ransomware on there, but it's having ransomware. It's kind of like, hey, look, right here, look, I'm ransomware. You got to take care of me while data's coming out, because you can get modules for different ransomwares that will create that ransomware, create the package for you, do whatever it is that you want it to do, but you can also put other pieces of malware or other exploit kits that will expel data. And ransomware is being put out as easy to decrypt. Thank you for testing my software. A lot of times ransomware will come out, and within a couple of days, oh, we got this. We were able to figure out the encryption. So now we have a tool, go up to blah, 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 download this tool, and it'll be encrypted. Very cool, thanks. Now I know where the flaws are in my software. So now I can go fix it. So thanks, you're basically an alpha or a beta tester for my ransomware. It's also used in a lot of, not false flag, but a lot of kind of like, hey, I'm over here, we have ransomware, we need to focus IR on that, and we're going to, oh, you know what, it's cool. We can already decrypt this, so don't worry about it. Let's focus on getting our files back while you're being attacked or data's already being exploded at the same time. Detection. Yes.
I had a question. How much are you seeing? So I've heard people talk about like forming ransomware and like through like synchronized files, cloud sharing programs, things like that. But I haven't actually seen it, and that surprised me a little bit. How often do you guys see like forming ransomware?
So with our customers, I can say right now we haven't seen that yet. However, just by doing the research side, it is out there. It's not extremely prevalent right now, but it's out there, and it is. You give it 3 months, and you're gonna start seeing like actual more news sites, not like CNN, NBC, but whatever, but like stuff we pay attention to. You're gonna see it, more stories about that. So detection, and again, nothing is foolproof. No matter what you do, they only have to do it right once. We have to do it right every time. But here's some ideas that you can do. Monitoring for certain indicators of compromise. For more popular types of ransomware, you can get hashes, you can get IPs, domains, a lot of different things. You can get this information. So monitoring for those IOCs, it does help. Now, is it going to stop anything? No, it's detection. But at least it gives you that more advanced time frame of, uh-oh, this happened, now we need to respond. Monitoring file registry modifications, honeypots and honey files, and bogus ransomware. Bogus ransomware can also be, that's the one that I mentioned before, that hey, you're my alpha and beta testing. It can also be used for a potential larger scale attack. So even if it gets dropped, and you say, hey, it's cool, we decrypted everything, a lot of times it can have, it's more on the modular based side again, that can still scan your network internally and just report that back out. It doesn't even have to do any data exfil. All we need to do is drop it, get some internal information, type that out, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this malware didn't, or this ransomware didn't run correctly, nothing got encrypted. All right, I'm gonna do it on a test machine. Yeah, nothing got encrypted. I don't know why this isn't working. Oh, run it again, and do some traces on it, and monitor your network, and you're gonna see there's take outbound connections, and then look at what's going on with those. That's yeah.
So with you just had infection. From a prevention standpoint, though, you can take things like IOCs and feed it back in and actually do some prevention based on that stuff.
Yes, you can.
So you're speeding up, stopping the kill chain.
Yes, absolutely. You can feed that back into an IPS. You have an IPS.
One thing to mention too, though, is you have to find out exactly how they're infecting the host versus like the variations and things like that you have. I mean, like if you're building YARA rules or something like that for it, it's a little bit of a different story. But I mean, most of these variants are going to have different signatures and bases, so you're not going to be able to do signature-based detection on it. But certain things like LOCKY, for example, responds to child process, with an executable and it calls out. I mean, that's suspicious. You can pretty much flag on that. You should have a non-cosigned, executable that's dropping, below a child process of that. So it's a one process. Easy to grab.
I know one tool that picks up ransomware really well, but I just can't say the name of it right now.
Do you see ransomware vaccines as actually being still used?
I mean,
because I heard about that like at the beginning. It's like, oh, just drop down this registry or drop this file, and it thinks it's already encrypted in one encrypted boxes. And that seems to have worked in like various corner cases for like a short period of time. But like I wasn't sure. I don't see it.
no, because these authors, like I said, when it started, it was a way for them to get money on their own. It's business. So they just like patching, and they do their own testing. They do their own vulnerability testing of their software. So yeah, they look for things that they can be detected by or be stopped by, and then they work on those, and they prioritize their bug fixes just like any other software developer does to get around that. Good question. So some best practices. Dave already talked about the thing. Anytime I have a best practice on any slide I do, no matter what the talk is, that's always number one. Security awareness training. There's so many companies that don't do any, or the way they do it isn't very good. I'm sure most people in this room would agree on that. I can go on forever on it, but I'm not going to sit here and bore everybody with, hey, this is what we should do with security awareness training. If you want to talk to me afterwards, that's fine, but honestly, that's still a problem. Another easy one, don't enable macros and documents. That's very easy to do. Like Dave was talking about a little bit before, technical controls. There are some things you can do, least privileges, same with macros. Patching still works. Yes?
What do you see as the most infection points? Like how are they actually infecting the clients?
So the question is infection points, avenues of attack. What's the most common? Right now, still the most common? Phishing. Hey, it works. It works for pretty much anything you want to do. Ransomware, data exfil, sensitive information, getting a free pizza. Stay current with new threats. I mean, not everyone has the time to be monitoring threat intelligence constantly, unless that is your job. But there's a lot of great feeds out there. There's a lot of great ways to stay current on what's going on, especially if you feel that you or your company might have an issue, might be a potential target for ransomware or any other targeted attack. Stay current. What's going on out there? What's the latest and greatest? How would we defend against that? How can we detect against that? What would our incident response be if we got hit with something like that? Show file extensions in Windows. Another very simple. You may have files that maybe they were hit, maybe they were decrypted, maybe they weren't, maybe something failed in the process, but it still did change file extension. And rules number 1 and rules number 2 for the David Kennedy incident response: back up your data. And don't just back it up and then have a copy of it in another folder on your drive. It's kind of like taking this is old school, but that's kind of like taking your backup tapes and putting it on top of the server. and then you have a fire in your data center, and do you have backups? Yeah, they're melted to that right there.
This is to your point about the security awareness training. I went to a city club over the summer, and they were doing a talk on viruses and security and all that kind of thing for all the legal firms in town. I was shocked to learn that the legal firms, mostly in Cleveland, don't think they have anything to protect. And so they're not doing anything to protect themselves at all, hardly.
Unfortunately, that's so. What he was saying was, for example, law firms, especially a lot around Cleveland, don't really feel they have anything they need to protect. Unfortunately, a lot of companies think like that. You might be, a vendor and say, you know what, I'm just a little, HVAC shop. Why would anyone want to hack into me?
Jamie, I would also say on the backup data piece, there's a really key nuance there, which is make sure it's version backup.
Yes.
Because we've been to a number of places where they're like, yeah, we back up our data every Friday. And they got hit on a Thursday, and then they backed up all their data, it was all encrypted. So their backup data was overwritten with an encrypted version. So, and all they had was just sort of a 1 week backup, rolling backup. So,
Good retention.
Outstanding.
that doesn't help.
No. It was off topic anyway. Okay, so that being said, questions? Any other questions? I know we've kind of talked a lot during this session, but I'm more than willing to hear any other questions you have right now. Yes, sir.
Do you know of any good, free, or cheap threat feeds that you could use, like a taxi feed or something like that, that's specific to ransomware for monitoring and like a network?
Yep. Meet me after this because I have to actually pull it up.
OTX, so it should be good.
Yeah.
For exchange.
OTX, Alien Multiple Threat Exchange, is really good. You can actually pull IOCs down for monitoring. You can create your own. So if you happen to see something and you want to add your your own IOCs, you can. But there's a couple of specific lists of ransomware.
So there's a tool that, so I work for Palo Alto, there's a tool we have called MindMeld that is free. It actually pulls, there's a list of stuff that you can pull from, including your guys' artillery feeds, and then it will dedupe all that information, so it has DNS, URLs, and IPs that it'll automatically dedupe all that and spit out a single list for each of those.
That'd actually be interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? Yeah, I actually kind of see that myself. Any other questions? Cool. So I have questions for you. Who is the speaker that's coming up after me? No one over here can say it. Whoa. Jimmy Bird, that is correct. You get. What do you get today? You get some balls. And it's BDS orange balls.
We got balls now?
Oh, the ball's right.
Yeah. Okay, so Jimmy Bird is speaking next.
Yes.
In a slowed down way or shrunken, the TLDR of his talk is. Jimmy's talk. What is the TLDR of Jimmy's talk coming up?
CICD?
Something about continuous.
Boom. You can now make sure your hands are clean and sanitized. One more question. What is, when I was talking about things you can do to help protect against ransomware, what's the number one thing I put on there? Security awareness. So you, sir, get the best prize. You get, you don't get that. You get something. Nope, that beer's mine. Jimmy, my mystery prices.
Oh, man.
You don't get anything. Would you
Next
like,
month.
Would you like some daytime cold medicine, or a wrapper for a cough drop. There you go. You get this one. All right, that's all I have.
What is it?
It's a coaster. It's a coaster. All right, so that's all I had. I appreciate everyone's input. I appreciate everyone hanging out and listening to me ramble for a little while. I'll be right over there if you guys have any further questions. So, thank you.
Take about a 5-minute break, the restrooms and whatnot. If you guys are interested in another soda, we have several more that are in the trough over there. It's used for the salad bar.
You get a bottle. You get a bottle. You get a bottle. You like some trash? Yeah.
How's the book? You read the book? Anything. Anything you can read. So, it's like that.
Well, you're right. I mean, some people, they read different things. So let's say I want to say that's very good.
That's Doug's house. Well, Doug's the one that we always plug in.
And make it look like I'm supposed to make our hospital.
Yeah.
So next time we do coasters, so
It helps a lot with
this is like a very high schedule, like people who do manager. So I get some information. Like that would be welcome.
No, I liked it. I don't know. I had this thing wants to talk about something more.
We've all been there.
I used to play in that same area for other reasons. Filing the directory for certain screens so that they don't get displayed in the store. You're monitoring
Makes it harder. Your net is harder. You really want people to there's so many that's why
taking 2 bits to jump.
Cooler drive.
There's so much of it. Which books? I can point you to the right books.
Let me go last thing. Yeah. Careless up there.
Basically, because it was all the same.
Just like that.
Who am I? I'm a developer at Binary Defense Systems. This talk, you could actually find it on the first slide. That was the URL to where you can actually get these slides. And then anything that's orange in this talk is also clickable. So I work here, and we use some of the practices here at work. Not all of them, but some of the things that we're talking about. So continuous what now? This is continuous integration. And if you're not familiar with development and what the development lifecycle has kind of been, there's something called continuous integration. It's essentially a tool or pipeline that allows you to see if your code is actually working on another machine. So that developer, it always works on my machine. Well, this is trying to get away from that. This is saying, all right, I was able to reproduce this build on another machine. It should be good. And so, yeah, it tries to get away from the work on my machine. Because a lot of times you end up merging code and it ends up looking like this. It's a disaster. People don't do a good job of it. And so you want to be able to say, all right, now that I can safely say at least it works somewhere else. It's not always going to be on my machine. And so this is a typical, just very simplistic version of it. It's be able to get the code, or you push out your code up there. If you're using a statically compiled language or statically typed language, you'll probably compile it. If not, you might run a linter or something on it. Run some unit tests. We'll talk about testing. And then you get some type of report at the end of it. And so like a output would be something like this, where it goes ahead and restores your NPM packages that take 400 minutes. Pack your web assets, do some linting, compiling, run your tests, and you can say, okay, everything was great, everything was good. And so what happens is, if this fails, you can actually see, okay, who checked in bad code? You know, what did I do? What did we miss? You can learn from it. It's a good learning experience. But you can also say, don't do that again. Stop it. And so some of the CI tools that you'll kind of see out there, there's like Jenkins, there's TeamCity, GitLab has their own CI built in, there's Travis that a lot of GitHub projects use, there's AppVeyor that a lot of GitHub projects use. There's a lot of cloud-based tools as well. The ones that are on premise is like Jenkins and TeamCity. So a lot of developers kind of use these tools to get that information back saying, hey, this build's broken, this isn't. And you can have multiple builds. So you can just have, if you have multiple code bases, you can have multiple builds for every single code base. And so this kind of gets us in a little bit to where software testing, because you end up trying to test your software the first time, it breaks. And if you want to test it, you can go through like the standard kind of testing, which is, did it actually kind of do what I thought it would do? But something that the software world has been kind of doing for a little while is kind of doing more than just having like people run through the software. And so you kind of want to get to a point where you can actually kind of run some of those tests automatically. And this is kind of the hierarchy. It's some chart I pulled. But it's essentially what what developers have been doing for a while right now is been doing unit tests, which are basically testing fine-grained functionality in your application. Integration tests, which are really testing your code with a database, with a web server, touching the file system, those kinds of things. And the reason why you do it separately is unit tests are really fast to run. Integration tests can take a little bit slow and they're brittle because of databases or web services going down. And then there's like functional tests, which are more about like, hey, can we pull up this website? Did I get an error doing this? Can actually get like screenshots from this? And it's actually kind of a cool process, but that's even more brittle. That's why it's kind of a little bit hard. It's a little bit harder to do, and it's a little bit like higher up on this totem pole. And we've kind of been doing this for at least a good decade, at least in software. We've been just kind of ingrained that we should be writing automatic tests or automated tests for our code. And one problem that I'm starting to see, and we don't really do it for security. Why don't we do this? I mean, we end up writing all these tests that say that it's functional, but who's telling them it's not leaking passwords or allow SQL injection? Like, why aren't we doing this? Because it's a problem with our culture. We just haven't really been focused on that. It's a lot of the top downs, like, all right, we need these features, we got to have this done. Well, there's a lot of the illities or the itties that like security, performance. Yes, that's great. Like security, performance, accessibility, things you're not really testing for, but you can test for. And so those things kind of get left on the wayside, and you just haven't really been doing it. And you've met plenty of developers who end up saying something like this. They write their own crypto, so it makes you want to jump out of a car. You see a lot of developers, committing passwords or private keys to source control. Like, well, what are you doing? Are you serious? Storing plain text passwords, like just being right in your code base. Like, why would you hard code that password? That's stupid. And why am I still having SQL injection? We've solved this problem, people. We've solved it. Why are we still having it? Like, what is wrong with us? And so, why don't we do more testing? Why can't we just do some security testing? There's tools out there. Penetration testers have been using these tools. Why can't we use them? And so I'm kind of obligated to put this in here. I'm not going to really read this entire thing for you, but this is the Rugged Manifesto. So people have already thought about this problem. And the Rugged Manifesto is just a set of principles to saying, I want to actually make my code secure. It's not going to be perfect, but I need it to be better. I need it to make it harder for people to actually get in and actually take an active stance of trying to defend my code. And so one of the tools out there that allows you to do this is OWASP Glue. And this project's been, maybe it's 2 years old or so now. But this is just a framework that kind of allows you to take a bunch of tools that is kind of built in, that it's a collection of tools that allows you to run them against your code bases. And so it got recently renamed, so there's as you can see, the beginning of this talk was OWASP pipelines. Well, now they've renamed it from pipelines to Glue. So you're going to see a lot of old stuff out there that's talking about pipelines. It's now talking about Glue. They just renamed it maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. So list of small ones. And there's something called tests, and this is the meat of it. This is where you can actually run these kind of tools against your code base. And so if you look at here, there's kind of a lot of Ruby and JavaScript in here, mainly because there is a lot of decent tools for those kind of languages out there, and they're free. You're not going to really see a lot of .NET because this kind of runs on Linux, and it's getting there, but it doesn't have a big following on Linux yet. And there's not really a lot of Python tools in here for some odd reason. I don't know why. But so these are all the tools that you can kind of run it. There's AV tools, like, hey, did my code get a file in there that's really infected? Because that's happened. Using Brakeman, which is really good for Ruby on Rails. It's checking a whole bunch of silly things that developers would do. Going through even just to retire JS on the JavaScript side, that scans your node dependencies and figures out if there's any CVEs. And so you can actually see, hey, this dependency has a CVE, we should probably update it. And so filters, these are basically where you want to either pull out false positives or allow you to kind of, before you get to reporters saying, hey, we already have an issue for this, don't create another one. And then, oops, get back there. And then reporters are, how do I get this information? Give me a report. So there's a couple formats. There's just plain text. There's JSON. There's CSV. There's Jira even. It can talk directly to Jira. And so you should get that. So there's really 2 ways to get started with this project. First way is just installing with a Ruby, just a gem install. Or if you're really hip and you want to be cool, you can use Docker. I recommend Docker just because it keeps your machine a little bit cleaner, but that's what we're going to be using today. So these are kind of the two ways to just get it set up really quick. And so we go over, we can actually, let's see, oh, that's great. All right, so it's not going to look so good on this screen. But, so a lot of, really the point is there's just a lot of options in this thing, a lot of options. So it's really like a good way to just, here's a hello world version of this. And so what we're going to be running here is we're telling Glue with the -t flag, here, run some of these tasks. And some of those tasks were like the ESLint, which is just a linter for JavaScript, and then retire.js, which is that node dependency checker. And we're going to be pointing it to node goat, which if you're not familiar with like OWASP and some of the projects they have out there, they have goat, there's a project called goat. And it's basically just vulnerable web apps in kind of different languages. And so like node goat one, there's goat for .NET, there's goat for Java, goats for, I think there's Ruby on Rails as well. So we're just going to be running this like tool against it. So actually pull this code and run it. Why not? So go ahead, grab the repo. It's already kind of had it, and so it's going to be running against them. And it didn't give me anything, so don't know why that didn't happen. But that's a good idea. That's good, because I already had some output from it. So this is some like basic output. This is like just one of the things that could come out from it. And so this is telling us, hey, your uglify, which if you're like into minifying your JavaScript, see Jamie, this has a vulnerability, and here's the actual website of where this vulnerable is. And so you can actually have a decent conversation now about, hey, we actually should be updating our packages because there could be this vulnerability. Now, uglify.js, it may have a vulnerability, but that's usually local because it's not something that's going to be on your website. Unless your website is actually a minifier. I don't know. But so at least you get get a pretty decent output, and you can actually have this be part of some of your issues in Jira or GitLab or GitHub or wherever you're using your issue trackers. And so this kind of gets me to, I want to talking a little bit about tasks. Tasks, there's basically categorizations of tasks, and they're called labels. And so if we looked at the list I had before, so you see that there's like Clam AV, Brakeman, and some of those things. There's labels kind of associated with them. So some of these tools are dedicated to Ruby. Some of them are dedicated to JavaScript. You don't have to actually run tools. You run individual tools. You can actually say, you know what, run all the Ruby tools. Run all the JavaScript tools. Just go ahead. And so you can get a really quick look at, you kind of have to look at the list and see like what's in there. There's not really a good output right now. So if we go over to the code base, you can actually see like going into one of these tasks. Let's look at a better one here, like Brakeman. So you can see that the Brakeman is like the name of this little file. It's telling us how it's basically a file to tell you how to operate with Brakeman. But there's also these labels, which is code, Ruby, and Rails. And so if you say, run anything that's dealing with Rails, you can go ahead and run anything that's just with Rails, and you don't have to specify the exact tools. So it's just kind of a categorization. And so, yeah, here's an example too if I didn't have the code up. And so, some of the important things is some of these tools are going to have like spaces in them. So if you really just want to run the tool, it's basically the space. It's the tool without spaces in the name, and then you can also just run the labels. And so I kind of have a collection here of here's just the list of tools with all their names, so you can really easily run them. So some of them are not obvious, like the Node Security Project one. And so you can actually go ahead and like run like two different ones at the same time. You could actually go ahead and run Brakeman and ESLint. Or you can say, take one of these labels and just run all the code ones. I don't even care if I don't have Ruby or JavaScript or whatever, just go ahead and run them all. Because this is like a framework, this allows you to actually be extensible. All you really have to do is implement a small amount of Ruby. I don't like writing Ruby personally, but it's really not that much code to write. It's implementing like the name, some labels, and a few functions how to actually talk to something. And so if you look at an example of like Brakeman over here, let's see if I can pull this. Is this good size? So you have to basically implement a few of these functions like analyze, run, and supported. Supported is basically just, am I able to run? Usually you just return true. But this is how I actually run it, and this is how I actually get the results out and give it back to, it gets the results out of Brakeman and says, okay, how do I parse this? Those are basically the two things you have to implement. So it's really not too bad from a task perspective. All the other ones are kind of very similar, like reporters. Come over to like the JIRA reporter. This would be the most complicated one. Kind of have to implement, run report. I think that's all you actually have to implement is that one, but there's quite a bit of code involved in talking to it. So it's actually really easy. So if you actually have some tools that you're using in-house that's not in this list, you can go ahead and write a little small implementation for it. And I tasked someone to do this. There's a tool out there called Vigil. And Vigil is this kind of Pythonic, do I not have internet? I guess not. I guess it's kind of this Pythonic language, but what it lets you do is scan your code and see if there's any like syntax errors or some basically like this wouldn't run at runtime. It scans and says this wouldn't run. And what it does is it deletes the offending code. And then it runs again and then says, oh, well, this thing was calling that thing, deletes that piece of code. It will literally delete your entire code base if you screw up. So I recommend people go play with that, but if someone wants to write a filter for that, or a task for that, go right ahead. And so first time you run this on code, you're going to get a giant list. Like, people have gotten penetration tests. They just get like a 300-page document. This is going to happen. If you have a giant code base, you're going to get a lot of stuff. You're just going to have to take the time, go through them, figure out what's critical, figure out what's high, deal with them, triage them as you normally would. And you're going to get a lot of bugs. There's going to be a lot of things in there. And you kind of have to look and say, are these actually, vulnerable? Is this something that's actually vulnerable? Is this something that's not really vulnerable? You kind of have to look at it and just deal with it. But it does let you get to the point where, you can actually have a conversation about this. You run like Zap against it, and you can say, hey, this web page has cross-site request forger on it. Let's fix this. You can actually know these things, and it's better to know these things instead of just being blind. And so with that, here's some resources. You'll be able to I'll go back to the first slide. And so you can actually get these slides if you just go to that website. With that, anyone got any questions?
How far would you estimate this would typically get you in the code review process? Is it do you feel it's like it's handling 20% of the typical things that are seen out there, or is it in the 50 to 60% of?
So the question is, how does this help you in your code review process?
Is how comprehensive is our sort of the list of default models?
So how comprehensive is the list of the tools? So I'm going to run within to see if that answers your question. So some of these tools, they're better than others. Brakeman's really good. It's a really good tool if you're a Ruby shop, really good for that. If you're running Node, run all the JavaScript tools. It can get you pretty far. It can tell you, hey, you hard-coded this password, or hey, this looks really wrong. You should probably deal with it. It's not going to go, unless you're writing coding standards, some of your coding standards may be don't ever say the word password in one of your things. I don't know why, but you can write a rule for that. And so it's going to get you a little bit further because some of the static code analysis will get you a little bit further. And you may not agree with all the things, like ESLint is pretty strict. You may not agree with the styling concerns. So, it may actually be a little bit more detrimental to something like that. But it can get you to some of that. It's just, you shouldn't be hard-coding passwords. You shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff.
your automation, you're focused obviously on static analysis. Do you have a lot of similar things in the dynamic space or anything like that?
So it's a lot of static tools. Is there anything in the dynamic space, or is dynamic like Zap?
Or, yeah.
Yeah, it includes Zap as part of it. Yes.
That with all this.
So there's a Zap command line tool.
Right. Yeah. So you have to.
Right.
That's actually parsed out in this entire pipeline here.
Yeah. So you can. There's a lot. There's a lot to it. Let's see. Do I actually still have internet access, or not? I guess not.
I did see that in there,
Yeah.
but you didn't go through too much.
Yeah.
Was that the final one? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't really go too deep in this talk, mainly because everyone's gonna have a little bit different concerns, and I didn't want to get too deep into some of it. But yeah, Zap's in there. There's a couple other like dynamic tools that if you're using yourself, again, you could just write something, write a small little plugin for it, and you can go off to the races.
I wasn't sure if you ever heard of Mozilla's, I think it's called Minion.
Minion, I have not.
Their project, their security shop, and it's pretty much like a web-based automation tool, but mostly, and you build plugins, almost like you would have like a browser plugin or something, so you almost have the same type of like billing tasks in their entire framework too, but it's more focused around, like for instance, like Nmap scanning and Zap and Arachne and some other stuff like that all built in.
Yeah, I think they just also added like Gauntlet to do some stuff. Well, Gauntlet's more static, but you can use there's not like a lot of dynamic tools because there is just a lot of work getting involved. Like a lot of people don't have a good process of like standing up their entire web server and then running a bunch of tests against it. And that's kind of in that like UI kind of functional suite test part that a lot of people have trouble with. And I'd like the Saver project can do it, but not everyone has the time or the tools to be able to do it. Anyone else? Well, I got questions for you as well because I have things to give away. For a coveted, OWASP sticker, name one of the top 10 OWASP something on top 10. There you go.
Always going to be there.
Yeah, always going to be there because why? It's solved, people. It's solved. All right. Can anyone tell me what the difference between a task and a label was? Nobody. All right.
Task is one specific program, and a label is approving those.
Sure. You get a choice here. I'll give you a choice. You can either get the hand spray or you can get the webcam blocker.
I have a webcam blocker.
All right. And for the webcam blocker, what was Jamie's last name? Oh man, I saw his hand up first.
You got that.
Well, whoever comes up here runs up here first. You want it? All right. All right, well, thank you very much.
You guys need a file?
reception also.
Like that?
Oh, actually, just behind the ear. Let's put a cap behind the ear. That'll twist. I think that's how
And right down. There you go. That's it.
Okay. Never used one of the fancy ones before.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to go and begin. We're trying a different format here with these tool talks. It's going to be about 10, 15 minutes or so. We're going to have 3 of them lined up. So Charles was prompted about a week ago, hey man, will you do me a solid and fill in for a tool talk? And he accepted, so please give his attention. Thank you.
I'm back! How's it going, guys? Okay, this will be 10 minutes. I'm actually going to start right now to make sure that I don't run too long. And I'm going to give you a quick tool talk on something that I use just about every day. It is a free log follower, kind of like a tail program if you're familiar with Linux, except for it's for Windows, because Windows doesn't come with tail, and you need something that's an alternative. That doesn't count. Do you have any idea how heavy that is? Anyways, so
They just added tail like.
do you want to see the emojis in my command prompt? You loved it last time. So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick run through. The great thing about this is the fact that it, oh, come on, don't fail me now. Yes! Awesome! That's right, we'll work with it. The great thing is this is a free utility. There is a professional version, a full version that you can go to. However, especially for the kind of situations that I use it in, the free version is 100% sufficient. There also is a trial of the pro version, if you so decide that you want to do that. Oh, you're all going to see my password. It is ... I can't type it and say it. Look at that. Now you all know.
Is this better than the Microsoft Log Project?
Yes. You know why? Because it's not made by Microsoft. Okay, Beartail. I was going to show you the website. I'm not going to show you the website. I do have it set to launch as admin because sometimes the logs that I need to look at are as admin. I'm going to go ahead and open up an Apache log. And show you guys a couple of examples of what you can do with it. This is a whole nother tool that I'll do some other time called Everything. Okay, so the primary use of this is just that it can open log files and format them correctly. It has the benefit that you can switch encodings. So if you know your log file is ASCII, ANSI, UTF-8, Unicode, or even Unicode Big Indian, where it turns out looking like gobbledygook when you first open it, all of those are available. Right next to there is the ability to follow the file, follow tail, and so basically it'll just auto-scroll at the bottom. Now these alone can be huge benefits. I mean, you can write a PowerShell script that will pull the file and get the lines out of it, but sometimes it's easier just to have an executable to run. It also has the ability to open files as tabs. So if I open up this other log file, you'll notice now I have 2 tabs. Unfortunately, I don't have a live demo because I didn't want to tempt the fate of the demo gods, but if you get additional lines in either of the files while you're watching them and they're not focused, you'll get an arrow on that tab. So you can actually keep open a whole bunch of log files and watch for changes across them as they come in. Extremely useful for the things that I have to do day to day. You can reorder tabs, you can close tabs, nothing fancy there. Just the fact that it has tabs and I don't have yet another instance of something running down in the taskbar is awesome to me. When you got off track there. Okay, when you are looking at the log files, right, it's great that it's got it all laid out there and you can read the text. Well, kind of read the text. They're just Apache logs. I'm sure you guys have all seen these. That's, a good start, but if I really want to justify having this tool, then I need to do something like, have highlighting. So I've got a bunch of them in there, but we'll go ahead and clear those and say, okay, access log. All of these, I'm looking through, there's a whole bunch of GET requests, HTTP GET, but you know what? I really want to see post requests. So post. And we'll pick a different color. Let's go with cyan, just for the pronunciation war that will happen. We'll go ahead and add that. And now as we scroll through, oh, I saw something there. Hey, there we are. You can identify the post request. Now it's not coming up quite the same color on there. Probably something wrong with my VGA conversion, but you can assign actually any color. They do have a color wheel here. So if you want to do foreground color, yes, old school color dialog. If you want to go crazy and customize everything, you can do that. You can also do the background color, same dialog. You can do bold or italic. Those are the options down and to the right. You can ignore case. Say maybe I have mixed cases where sometimes post shows up like this for some reason. Well, if I set it as it is to highlight, it's not going to grab it, so I can say ignore case. In fact, if I want to do another rule, and let's do this one magenta background, I can actually invert this match so that all of the things that aren't post are highlighted. And of course, you can add a whole bunch of those and go through and customize them to your heart's content. Actually, that brings up another thing. So if we're making all these customizations, right, it's Windows. They're going to get stored in the registry or somewhere vague. I'll never be able to find them again. Or I can save the preferences to a file. You can actually have it save and load its preferences from an INI file. So maybe you have this on network share. You have several computers you want to work with. Now they're not stored in some weird place in the registry. They're stored in a file. If you want to, you can save and load to registry as well. Actually, the preferences dialog is very straightforward, to the point, and very valuable. In the options, I've got a minimal set of options. That's one of the great things about Beartail, is it's very straightforward. It's short, it's to the point. Why not Notepad++? Because I can't figure out where it stores its preferences without digging 3 layers deep into dialogues that have nothing to do with it. That's why. Simple tool for a simple job.
Don't like the challenge.
I don't, not when it comes to that one. Okay, so you can see font, main window, you can set it to always on top. Maybe for some reason you like to split your windows up and have things that are floating above others. Hide the main menu, I often enable this one. Although, yeah, there we go, activates automatically. So the main menu's gone. If I need that extra couple of lines that I want to watch for the logs, I can persist to the registry, to a file in an application directory, to a file in the working directory, or have no persistence. So if you have this running and say it's on a user system you're trying to analyze and you don't want to leave anything behind, perfect setting for it. I just love the way that this thing's developed. And it actually lists exactly where it is storing the information as well. So you've got that kind of confirmation.
What's the default for save on exit?
Right now, it's to the registry. So
They have the default need not to save. Where do you say that?
So it's a good question. I've got 2 answers. The first one is, I believe there is a command line flag you can launch it with. The second one is, it saves on exit. And so when you launch it the first time, you would go in here and you would just say, okay, save to a file in the application directory. And when it exits, it will then save that information, thereby leaving nothing on the system or in the specific location that you asked it to leave information. I use the save in working directory a lot because that way I can launch it from like an application directory where I'm trying to debug, and the settings for that application are stored with it, rather than being somewhere else. So like if I'm trying to go after Apache, I can have it save its settings alongside of my Apache log files that I'm analyzing, keep it all bundled together, and that way as I pass it around between computers or whatnot, I'm good to go. I don't have to reset up all those highlighting. That can get very complex. It's got some other options in there, file name tabs, follow tail mode, all kinds of great stuff. Actually, speaking of follow tail mode, this is something else that is awesome. You'll notice at the top, the check mark beside follow tail, right up here, if only I had a laser pointer, is not checked. However, if I run this thing all the way to the bottom and actually accomplish it, it will automatically follow the tail. And you can turn that off, but it's really nice to have that feature where I just run it to the bottom, I'm immediately following the end of it. I don't have to then go check the box and it's jumping around, the scroll bar's going. No, we're good to go. It also displays the file name, you can see up here, and the file size. If a file is truncated or deleted, it will automatically display that as well. In the preferences, you can set how often it updates. So you can tweak that, and that way, like every second or something, it'll then show you what's going on. Recent files, normal menus, nothing fancy. Automatically size, you can actually size the window straight from there. So if you don't have some fancy window manager or the built-in Windows one, you can do that. And then finally, help, which has a pretty good help, but all of those pretty much launch to a website. Here's command line usage, which can't load because I'm not connected. But I hope that you guys, yes, here's the website. I hope you guys find this tool useful. Beartail, it's all of 220K on your system. The professional version is available as well. I love it, and I hope that you guys will too if you choose to use it.
It's been almost 10 years since the last update.
Right? That shows that it's stable. Yes, sir.
How well does it handle like ridiculously large?
Beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. I've never had it actually choke. Once in a while, it seems to do some kind of progressive loading, and so once in a while I'll open up a log file, and I'll start scrolling, and the scroll bar will go from here to as it loads that huge file. But I've never had it actually choke on one, and if I open it up following, it seems to kind of do that in reverse. Huh? But yeah, I've found it very valuable, and everything that I've thrown at it has been good. And like you said, 10 years, I mean, it's got to be stable. It's good stuff. Any other questions? Do I still buy a license? I just use the free version. That's more than enough for what I need, and that's what I demoed to you. It's just a very simple, straightforward tool. I mean, the registered version, the professional version, you can try it if you'd like.
You can disable the splash screen. Is that the only feature? That's what it says.
That's the only thing you can't do in the free version.
Oh, nice.
So it'll splash every time it starts up.
Plus more.
Plus more. So here, this is the splash screen. Minimize that. Oh, ow, that splash screen. Oh, wait, never mind. It's really not that bad because it disappears in a couple of seconds.
Or does it?
It does. It does. It evaporated. It's magic. Any other questions? Thank you for your time. Nope. Why would you need that insanity? You know what happens when you choose regex to solve a problem? You have two problems. Yes, there is. Which I've never actually used before. I just find Beartail extremely useful. It's teeny tiny, 220K. I've never written any software that small.
Sorry, we're waiting for a disk to finalize, right?
Well, actually, now it's formatting a new one.
Formatting a new one.
And then record.
So, any job openings?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, any job openings that would like to go ahead and share? Anyone is aware?
I work in Pittsburgh, but we have a job opening for
Carnegie Mellon is what?
We have one, and there may be more than one, analyst engineering.
Analyst engineers.
Supposed to be putting people out to take our jobs. Not taking, do that too.
Anyone else?
BDS, binary defense, when you saw Jimmy and Charles and the folks speak at, we have SOC analyst positions. I think there's a senior SOC analyst and a couple junior SOC analyst positions, and then really looking for developers. So if you know Python, any type of object-oriented programming languages, web developers, object or functional, definitely looking for folks like that. Hiring quite a few.
Sweet. You ready? All right. Well, I just misspelled that. This is a talk about PB&J, or port banners and junk. It is a little app that kind of came up during my searches, and I thought you guys might get a kick out of looking at that. What it does is it permits you to go ahead and create Nmap scans, and it throws them into a database of your choice, and then allows you to create queries on that database. Pretty simple for you to generate something for cheap and build it on a cron job. So I'm going to just run through this, a little bit about the app and what it can do, and maybe I can answer some questions for you guys. So installing it's pretty simple. It's in the Debian repository. So you can do an apt get install PB&J. You'll also, I needed to install this libshell -perl to get that to actually function. But it's pretty simple. Runs through for a few minutes. And Scan PB&J which is one of the key apps, the applications from the start. It can do several things. This is you can pull an IP list, or you can pull a text file that you want to go ahead and import from. Pulls an Nmap scan, and then you got several different arguments that you can spin to it, both for Nmap scans and other types of scans it can do internally. When you choose a target, you go ahead and usually run it as administrator. And the first time you run this, it'll instantiate a SQLite database for you, and go ahead and spin that up with the targets that it's found. So, hitting my little test machine that I had going with my targets included just the IP of my VM that I was running from the VMware workstation. It went ahead and showed that it had service running on 22 as SSH. And when you go ahead and stop that and then rerun that same query again, it throws up a service has changed for the services down. So you can obviously reschedule this as a cron job to go ahead and re-scan that each time, and then output that to either CSV file or send it to pipe that to an email or whatever you'd like to kind of do to make a quick search. And I thought this was kind of interesting because you could obviously throw this on a quick little VM that you might have in your network and scan your servers of a small subset that you might have if you have no budget and running just as your single man in the shop. It has two different files that it kind of calls from. One is the query, which is just a YAML document with several different options for different types of queries. And you can go through them. There's many, many more besides just the latest info. But in there you can see it's a simple SQL statement that you can go ahead and query and pull the results from the output PB&J. The other document is the config, and then from there you choose your SQLite database, or you can choose a MySQL, or you can throw it as MS SQL or Postgres or any other type of SQL environment that you want to go ahead and use. It's pretty simple. The schema is very basic. So I opened up the SQLite just so you can see what the two options on there. It really only has two tables, a machines and a services table. And then within there you can go ahead and see that the scans that I kind of performed, I tested this on localhost, and it's got the 127. And then I found another IP that was available there. And you can see that it has each time that the service was up and down, showing a timestamp that was on there. So it makes it pretty simple for me to go there. And that was all this quick little talk was supposed to be about. All right.
Hold on a second. That's all right. All right, so I got another short, sweet talk as well. Mine's going to be on the OWASP project, BWA, Broken Web Applications project. It's currently inactive just because it's only updated every couple years. Last time it was updated was August of 2015. Basically what it is, are you familiar with Security Shepherd, BWAP, all those different projects? Well, this basically is a VM that wraps all those into one application. So all you basically have to do, you just spin up the OVA file in VirtualBox or whatever. And actually, I talked to Jimmy, it's actually a pretty huge file. It's actually like 2 gigs. So, I was looking at something else when I said 20 megs. But basically, it allows you to, so I do a lot of testing myself, but I do a lot of training with our developers. We look at programs like the WebGoats, BWAP, Security Shepherd we use for CTF here. But what this does is allows you to use all those different programs in one VM. So basically, each of these little plus signs, when you open it up, it gives you the username, password, credentials, and then you can just open it up in a new tab, and you're right into BWAP. So you can just start using BWAP, full version, and it's kind of off the screen, so it's hard to see. But I have Zap loaded up over here. So then you can just start using Zap with it. Use your burp, whatever you want to use. It's fully functional. Going back over here, you got Security Shepherd. Actually, let's open up here. And you just log in. Everything that you update in here, it stores until you reload the VM. So once I kill this VM, everything in here resets back to the beginning. But it's available on SourceForge. The latest one, 1.2, came out August of last year. Pretty good tool. So that's my talk. Any questions? No? All right.
So we've got a couple announcements. You just pulled that closing.
This one?
That's the intro. There's another one. Yeah. So obviously this new format's pretty simple for people. If you guys would like to give it a chance and throw an app that you think anyone might be interested in, maybe something that's brand new to you, that you want to go ahead and present, just spark the interest, give some talks about it. We're looking for talks from 5 to 45 minutes, any sort of concepts, any sort of information on. So go ahead and shoot an email to board@neoisf.org, or you can reach out to me, and we'll put you on the schedule. We are still looking for people for next month's meeting. We spoke about job opportunities and openings. Does anyone else have anything else they want to share on that? All right, so a couple of events that are coming up. We've got Cleveland Lock Sport, which is going on this weekend, October 9th. What?
That would be today.
Yeah, you're wrong. Sorry, I mistyped that. It's not on the 19th. It will be this weekend, which is the 22nd. It'll be the 22nd. It's going to be at the Brecksville Library. You guys can visit the website at clevelandlocksport.org to find more information there. The Information Security Summit, there's lots of training going to be going on a few days leading up to that, but the key dates are the 24th through the 28th, with the 27th and 28th being the main events. And of course, B-Sides Detroit and Converge, they just opened up their CFP. They're obviously very local, and they're looking for great talks. Both people are new to the field and old. Does anyone else have any other events they want to go ahead and share to announce? All right. With that being said, our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, November 16th. So if you guys want to, same location, we are still looking for speakers. Once again, we got a couple people we want to thank. OE Connections for the facility, and Mike Woolard. Please give them a round of applause. David Kennedy and Trusted Sec and Binary Defense, thank you so much. And of course, Jimmy, Jamie, Charles, Mike, and Justin. Thank you so much. Quick reminder, we are looking for more members. If you guys want to join in and get on the list, go ahead and send us an email, or you can visit our website. We are looking for anyone of any types. Like I said, we've got a wide swath of people who have experience, so we're looking for both people the new and old. Got an announcement?
Kind of a question and announcement. So if you didn't know, actually Justin was streaming tonight's meeting on YouTube. Is that going to be something we're doing moving forward? Or was this just
If it's perceived as being positive.
So spread the word if you want people that you know that can't make it to the meetings, if they're interested in watching on YouTube, the NEOISF channel on YouTube. Get enough subscribers, we can actually have a real URL rather than.
Yeah, we need to have 100 subscribers in order to get a custom URL. So right now it's a little bit long. But if you check out neoisf.org as Twitter, you can see that we've tweeted that link out there that it has been live and available. Do you something? Or you just...
If you want, I can show that tool that I mentioned real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to get up and show it? Or so he's got a tool he wants to go ahead and show.
You want to record it? I don't care. Do you have the Mac
Mm-hmm.
conversion?
Doesn't care.
Nope.
This is the free. This one's free.
Free
As in actually free. As in legitimately, this is free.
How do you get wildfire for free?
That one's not free.
Yeah. Come on.
Blue or black, you're good either way.
Good. Well, run cold. That's good.
Problem I get is my socks. I have funky socks usually, so those are all very
It's actually just polyester.
Well, I'm saying like if you have blue, you wash blue, then it's get into the sock.
The socks are usually synthetic, so you won't get them. You can't. You can wash them in hot or cold.
Use wins again. Those are so you can eat it.
It may not be fun coming out. It's probably non-digestive fiber.
There we go. All right. So, are you good? I can stand, right? Is this okay? Nah, it's not going to take long. I don't need to sit. So the tool is called MindMeld. MindMeld. You can get it at, if you go to thislive.paloaltonetworks.com, you can find it there, download it, you download the OVAs, spin it up in Azure, Amazon, do the local install for Ubuntu. And then what it actually looks like is you basically have a whole bunch of different feeds. So if I take this, so basically what you do is you have multiple different feeds, and you take from those multiple different feeds, it takes it through an aggregator. That aggregator will dedupe it, and then you spit it out into these feeds here. So we can pull in
all of the different IPs, URLs, DNS, wherever it's coming from. This will deduplicate it in that aggregator, spits it out into an outbound feed that then has a URL list or an IP list or whatever it is that you can load and basically look at from that standpoint. So as you look at the options that are available in it, or what basically the services that are pre-built, you can add your own by changing the config file. But inside of it, you've got, these are the pre-built ones that are added in. So you've got Alien Vault, CERT files from Australia, or CERT people from Australia, Amazon files, binary defense, other block list, Office 365, if you're trying to keep track of your Office 365 URLs. Ransomware trackers, if you're trying to track ransomware, these are ransomware trackers. Proofpoint emerging threat lists. So you just pick whatever ones you want of these, feed it into the aggregator, and spit it back out, and then you've got your list. And that can be used with any tools.
Is there a programmatic interface? So
No, not right now, I don't think. It's web, or you go in and you can modify the backend. Like, it's Linux files that you can modify the config files inside. So that's it.
From an output standpoint, what kind of options do you have?
So you pick an output aggregator from one of these. So if I say like search output, so you've got these various different feeds that you can basically pick what confidence levels that you want. If you've got feeds that you trust more than other feeds, so you can create different ones from there. But you'll go in here, pick one of your feeds, and then you can clone it, which is basically you create it there, and then from that standpoint, you pick what feeds are going into it. And so it's basically, here's the minors are basically your inputs. So these are the things I'm taking it from. I'm going through an aggregator, and then I'm outputting that to something. All right?
Is it all flat file output?
Yes, all text file output. It auto updates. So, I mean, when you're talking flat file, it's automatically pulling stuff in and refreshing that. And
You have to have something to ingest that file.
yes.
Somewhere to be ingested.
Yeah, you have to have some kind of dynamic list or something that's going to ingest your output that you're using for a block list.
You said it's an OVA, can you just install it? Like, how complicated is it?
The directions are on the directions to just install it are there. That Ubuntu server has the actual directions to install it.
So it's open source.
Yes. Well, I don't know if it's open source, but it's, yeah. Yeah, open source might be going a little too far. Yeah. What's that? So other people who have that list, that all those lists that I was shown as like the minors, it's all those different people that have the feeds. So they've just kind of aggregated a whole bunch that they've pre-populated, but you can go in and modify your own ones. Yeah, all these ones, like, let me go back to here. So like SpamHost is a pre-populated one. I can actually open it up. Let's get rid of this.
Assuming it supports like API keys and
For paid feeds. So I know, the only one I know for sure that I've heard is like Dell SecureWorks. It actually integrates into this. I don't know how they do it, but I know they do it. So all you need is like basically where you're pulling from. So we're not pulling for anything from APIs. Like, it's just give us flat files. We'll take that flat file, conglomerate it down, and spit it back out. And so, I mean, here's your URL. So like everything's going to look like that. There's a URL that it's pulling from, and there's the URLs. Good? All right. Thanks. Is that